Hi everyone, it's Louisa and I am here to answer another one of your questions. And the question that we're working with this week is, should I reread the text? Rereading the text is a pretty traditional tip that lots of schools give to students as a way to study. Honestly, I've never been a huge fan of it, but now I have the data to back it up. So I'm reading a really awesome book called Make It Stick, The Science of Learning, and I'll include an affiliate link to it for you if you're interested in it. And the book looks at all of the recent research within the last decade or so on how we learn. And what they've discovered basically is that we learn very differently than we kind of all thought that we learned. And it runs counterintuitive to a lot of the information that's out there about studying. And one of them is rereading. So the question is, should I reread before the test? Is this an effective strategy? And in a word, the answer is no, it's not an effective strategy. So what they did studies, and they would have students read articles, and they could take a test right away, and then they were tested a week later, and they were asked, some of them were allowed to reread the text before, and some of them did not. What they found is that the students who reread had no difference in outcome from the students who had not reread the article. What that means is that rereading is basically a waste of your time. Instead of rereading the text, you need to be doing something much more interactive. And the reason is we don't learn just by reading once or twice or 15 times. We actually learn through interaction with the information. So let's talk about what to do instead of rereading, what you can do that's going to be more effective for you. So one of those would be flashcards, right? That is a classic study strategy that actually is a really great study strategy if you do it correctly. So let's say you've got your card in front of you and it has a term on the front and on the back is the definition. Read the term, force yourself to recall the information. Force it out of your head whatever way you can to remember that definition before you turn the card over. Then you turn the card over and see whether you're right or not. That form of interaction where you're forcing, kind of bringing the information out of your head, that's actually how we learn. And that's going to be much more effective than just essentially memorizing a reading. Something else you could do would be to create your own study guide and then use that study guide as your form of studying, either writing out answers or talking it out with someone else, which we'll talk about in just a minute. So creating your own study guide is very effective. That's also a great thing to use in a study group as well if you're thinking about doing something, studying with other people. Another option would be a review game. Either you create it or somebody else create it. You can go on Kahoot and there's 50 million review games already created. Again, it is forcing you to recall information and try to get it out of your head. Another great option is the talk it out, which I mentioned earlier. And that is basically where you try to teach someone else. Again, you are interacting with that content, trying to get it out of your head to see what you remember. In that process, you are also putting that information or content into your own language. And that's going to be much more powerful than if you just memorize this kind of academic language that you're not quite sure what it means. So instead of rereading, what I want you to try, flashcards, DIY study guide, working in a study group or on a review game or that study guide, or you could talk it out with someone. Those are all going to be much more effective ways of studying, and you're going to see much better results than if you just spend the time memorizing the text. All right, so next week I will be back to answer another one of your questions. Bye, guys.